What's going on, everybody? It's your boy C-Zar, and we are talking about Bitcoin today. The purpose of this video is to discuss where I think the price will be over the coming days, by the end of this move, what's going on, and then where I expect the price to be by the end of the cycle as well. I want to go over that. We haven't talked about it in a little while, so we'll go over some cycle ending price predictions at the end, and I can even try and do some time frames. We'll see how it goes. I'm just free-forming this. I don't have a script, so I never do. It's just kind of how I do things. So let's get it going, guys. Hit that like button, subscribe. Here we are, $101,000 now. I actually want to look at this on Coinbase just for the beginning. We can jump back to that chart for the long-term stuff, but a little bit of volume here, right? We can see that last week we had a little bit above average volume. It's the second highest weekly close that we've ever had. We broke out to new all-time high. We didn't break out, but we tipped new all-time highs. We got all these bullish things last week news-wise, and nothing happened. We didn't go anywhere. And that's okay. There was even actually some bearish things news-wise that happened last week, and we still didn't go anywhere. So it was, bullish or bearish. There wasn't really any kind of budging the price action here, which is kind of interesting. Over the past couple of days, what's really cool is we've moved down, right? Saturday, Sunday, and even Monday now. It's Monday right now. It's the beginning of the week, right? Stock markets open. The traditional finance market opens on Monday, but they're still closed. At least in the United States, they're still closed. So all of this has happened while most of the market participants are not involved. You can see that both in a time perspective, because Saturday, Sunday, the early hours of Monday, whenever the stock market's closed, when traditional finance is on their weekend. You can see it physically, just in a time perspective. And you can see it physically through a volume perspective too. Look at the lack of interest that's happened over the last 3 days, coincidentally, when we're on the weekend. Look at this, very low volume here. Wouldn't it come to your surprise that Sunday and Saturday were those low volume days? All I'm trying to say is oftentimes when you go down during the weekend, you go up during the week. I'm suspecting that either today, if not starting today, and I've been thinking it would be today, the later half of today, that's been my expectation. That's what I've been saying over the past few days, is that the later half of Monday is when we're going to start this next move up. And I believe it's going to be a move that takes us at least to 123K by the end of this week, or 120K to 130K by the end of this week, and ultimately it's a move that we're starting that's going to take us to about 140K, 180K, something like that by the end of February, if not the very beginning of March. That's what I expect. We're going to get into all that and make sense out of that. I don't want to just throw words at you and and just expect you to take it for granted. I'll explain it too, but before we get into all that stuff, just hear me out here, right? So I expect that either today, one of two things is going to happen, okay? Either today we close red, that's the low, and then tomorrow we pump. Or today, that's the low, we close green, and then tomorrow we pump, right? I don't suspect that we go too much lower today. If we were to go lower at all from here, it would have to be in the hours before the stock market opens. I suspect once the market opens tomorrow, we're going to get a bullish recovery. As we often do when we bleed over the weekend, we get a very bullish recovery in the beginning of the week. And I think that bullish recovery is going to ignite. It's going to be, this is a higher low throughout this range. Where's our next high going to be? It's probably going to be a higher high that's going to ignite Bitcoin to new all-time highs and a move that's going to take it thousands of dollars, tens of thousands of dollars higher than it is now. We look at this relative low here to the relative high. You're at your 382 in very powerful moves and strong bullish moves, which I think that's a pretty strong bullish move there. I mean, after all, Bitcoin from this day here on Monday the 13th to this day here, Monday the 20th, in a 7-day period, it moved up 22%. That's a very powerful move for Bitcoin, a multi-trillion-dollar asset. I would say it's pretty powerful. Pulling back to your 382, very common thing to do. Find support here. Move on up. Once we get above 104, and actually we've already closed above there. No, because we're finding support now. Once we get above 104.2K, that's how we know we will likely be on our path to new all-time highs. Okay. If we find resistance at 104.2K and we turn around, well, we might be going down to 96K, you guys. So be aware of that. 96 to 95K, even just below 95K, it's still on the table. It's very possible we could see these prices being hit, and I'm not dissuaded or discouraged if that happens, right? We very well could see it. It's not my expectation, but it's a higher low. It's at an area that makes sense, the golden ratio, right? And it's something to build from. It's okay, right? Maybe the first week of February isn't as bullish as we were anticipating. Maybe it's the second half of February that has this bullish finish. Going into March, I don't anticipate this, but it can happen. Just be prepared. And that happens if we reject 104.2K, or essentially if we break below Basically, if we break below like 101K on a daily closing basis, if we close below 101K, likely we're going lower, right? Does that make sense? Is that 100 or is that 100K itself? Yeah, 101K. But a closing above 104.2K would likely signal that we're moving to new all-time highs, just based off of this fib. Okay, so stuff to look for there. Looking at the daily RSI, to me, it would make sense that we're going to move up, right? You were getting overbought whenever you were getting really hot, moving up. Strongest positions to the bullish effect are in the overbought zone. You're moving down, you're correcting your weakest positions. You're not even really breaking below the 40. You're finding support there. It looks like you've got a nice low kind of area. You broke out of your downtrend here, and now you're forming a higher low in your RSI, potentially right off the 50 area, an area that you found resistance on before, support on before. Here you went a little bit through it. There you went a little bit through it. So could you go a little bit through it here, I suppose. But if you close the day here or even a little bit higher, you'll close right around the zone bouncing, and it would look really good on your daily perspective. As you bounce from here, as you continue to move higher, it's not this phase that's going to be the strongest move for Bitcoin. It's when it gets into the overbought zone. That's when we start to see these strong moves happen. Okay, right? If we look back here, very strong move happened right here, and that was actually a very strong move, but it took us into the overbought zone. Okay, that was a 9% move. The biggest candle that we saw throughout this whole move happened here. That was 10%, and that was after we got overbought. Right, getting overbought foreshadows bigger moves to come. So moving up from here on the RSI, moving up like that, I suppose if we were probably up above about 110K, that would get us overbought, and that would signal that this was the weak move. We've got bigger moves to go, right? If we take a high to a low of this overall consolidation range, not the fake out high, that was a fake out. It absolutely was, just like this was a fake out, right? But the high to the low here, because this is the move. I'm not taking that high because it wouldn't make sense to go backwards. It makes sense only to go forwards. That's why I'm taking the fake out low there. But high to low, the minimum target area would be 114K to 122K. I anticipate personally that Bitcoin will see its 1618 or even reach for its 1886 by the end of this week. 122K to 130K by the end of this week. I think it's going to happen because I do expect, again, when this move happens, it'll be tomorrow. Well, today technically, but probably 8 hours or 12 hours from now or so, the later part of today. And then I think really going into the end of this week, in the middle of this week, Tuesday and on, it's going to be in full force moving up. So I expect 122K or higher. If we look here, we go to Bitcoin's consolidation phase that I had here back in January of 2024. It actually started December 2023 and it ended in February. That's when we started to break out. But if you take a high to a low here, you can see that your initial move, while you did consolidate for like a week or two right here, maybe like a week and a half, right at the 1272, you didn't really stop until your 2618. And even then you had a little momentary stop here at your 1886, but you just tore through it all, man. You went through your 1618, you went all the way up to your 2618. It was miraculous, okay? You go through here, you look at this high to low here, and here at this momentary stopping point, you stopped at your 2618 as well, right at the 2618, just above it, in fact, okay? Just above it. This one probably won't give you a 2618, to be completely fair, and that's okay. I mean, maybe this one will, high to low. Let's see. No, that's like a 3618 all the way up there. But let's just look at it anyways. High to low here. That one took you to your 1886. So far, all of Bitcoin's moves have had a relative 1886 or a 2618 extension. All of them, except for this one. High to low here. Oh, wait, I lied. I thought we stopped at the 1272. I lied. So every single move, I lied. Every single move in Bitcoin's bull cycle, this cycle, has topped off at a minimum at the relative 1886, at a maximum just above the 2618. But that's a pretty specific range, is it not? High to low here. This next move, which I don't know if it'll be the end of this move per se, but just maybe this next move will consolidate and then continue higher. The 1886 is at 129K. The 2618 is at $150,000. And oftentimes if you hit the 2618, you go just above it. If you hit the 1886, you go just above it. So targets from 130 to 150K, all this means is they're right on the horizon. It's happening. It's happening, guys. This is what's happened every single move so far. And odds are, you guys, here's the cool thing, is that while, yes, that's been the statistics, or the not just the statistics, but the reality is that we've seen the 1886 to the 2618 every single move this cycle for Bitcoin as far as a bullish move moving up goes from its relative consolidation phase. What's cool about that is we have a given range that we can depend on, but what's even more exciting is we could exceed that range. We could see higher targets than anything we've seen before, and that's because, very simply put, Bitcoin only gets stronger as the cycle progresses, right? It only gets stronger as the cycle progresses. If we look at this move here, right, we're looking at it as a whole. You could argue that the move started down here from a low to a high. You could argue that, but I would say this move started here. Started here, ended here, right? Something like that. So if you measure this move from a low point here to a high point there, it's about a 62% move. If we measure this move from a low point here to this area, a 62% move would be right in the heart of that area. And running back to just the whole idea that I think as we go further in the cycle, we see stronger moves. Might it make sense that we see a stronger move than 62%? In which case, 150K, just above 150K, 70% of a move. Because when you topped off at the 2618 every time at this cycle, you actually did top off a little bit above it, not right below it, not right at it. So I don't know, man. A lot of sense being made from that 150K area. Now, what I would expect is that we probably move up there rather immediately. I think it's going to happen in the first half of February. I think we're going to see that kind of target destination. I think by the end of this week, we'll be in this area. By the end of the following week or the following week after that, we'll be in this area. I think we'll consolidate once more a little bit, and then we'll have one last run up. Something that takes us to 180K, 175K, something like that in that area, maybe even above that. And that will likely be sometime in either the very last week of February or the very first week and a half of March is kind of my anticipation. And then we will start a more pronounced consolidation phase, something longer than this, but something not as long as this, right? I would anticipate by the end of February, by the end of March, we enter a consolidation phase that lasts at least 1 month and lasts no longer than 3 months, okay? But right now, we're getting geared up. We're getting set up for this next move. And what's good for Bitcoin is good for crypto. So I got really nothing else to say for you guys. Oh, right. We're going to go over cycle ending predictions. We're going to go cycle ending predictions and end this video, okay? So from a monthly perspective, we're going to look at crypto.com or index. Yeah, the index, all-time history index. If you look at this here, I'm looking at the RSI first and foremost. The monthly RSI, you guys, everybody has access. You don't even have to have the premium on TradingView. You can have access to the RSI. You just sign up for an account. It's free. And you just go to your technicals here, relative. I type in REL, relative strength index right there. Boom, you click it. I set mine to a 10, but default it comes out at 14, whatever, who cares? Right? Whatever it is, tomato, it might not be at the same exact readings, but you'll get this same line no matter what your reading is. You'll get this same line. It just might be at different areas, right? Instead of here, maybe it's higher, maybe it's lower, but you would get this same line no matter what your RSI is set to. We haven't interacted with this line is what I'm trying to say. Okay. Every time we end the cycle, we interact with this line. And not only that, we interact with it once, twice, once, twice, once, twice. Once here, second peak, there still. We've had 2 peaks every time, and it's the second peak that offers the all-time high. It's the second peak. So stick that in your back pocket for later. That might be something to know. We haven't even had our first peak yet, okay? Likely this cycle ends sometime at the end of 2025, okay? That's my assumption. But looking at the RSI, we've got more to go. Okay. Looking at the price, the first cycle high to the first bear cycle low. We went all the way up the next cycle to the 2272. Just above it, in fact. Just above the 2272. Oops. From the next cycle high to the next bear cycle low, if I can get my hand on it, there we go. Come on now. We went again all the way up to just above the 2272. Yet again, 2 for 2 there, just above it, right? You can see just above it right there. The next cycle, we did not go above the 2272. We stopped, oh, that's not where, at the 1618. We double topped there. In fact, that's the only cycle that we stopped at the 1618. It's the only cycle so far that we've had a double top. I don't anticipate that we have a double top, right? If you look at last cycle, it had this very kind of eruptive move to begin, long phase of consolidation. It was essentially a 2-move cycle. This was a more parabolic rally. This cycle here was a 1 move up, consolidation, 2 moves up, consolidation, 3 moves up, consolidation, 4 moves up, consolidation. It took 4 moves up. And then this one was just crazy mayhem. Bitcoin just got into existence. People are getting as much as they can. Da Vinci Jeremy, he was buying all of them down there, right? Roger Ver, what's his name? Scamanches or no. What's the guy's name that I'm trying to think of? I mean, probably just any of the big crypto names, right? Anyways, guys, let's get moving on, okay? $101,000 now. You hit the 1618 there. What we've seen so far, cycle after cycle, is that you've stopped either at your 1618 or your 2272. And if you go to your 1618, it's just above it. If you go to your 2272, it's just above it, okay? If I'm wrong, then this next move to 170K, 180K, this will be our all-time high. We will end the cycle in February, March. That'll be it. That's the end of the bull cycle. If I'm wrong. If I'm right, that'll be a momentary stopping point, and we will continue this cycle until we see Bitcoin at $462,000 and likely above it, because every time Bitcoin's hit its 2272, it's gone just above it. We'll see. I'm anticipating this. This is what I'm anticipating. I'm anticipating people have a lot of PTSD from last cycle, because last cycle was whack, man. Let me tell you. Double top to end it, crazy. Just not what people expected. It's very classic maneuver as a double top, but nobody expected that. That's not how Bitcoin tops off. I think people have post-traumatic stress from that event. So my theory is this. Not only will this next phase of this move take us to about 173K or even just above it, about 180K, I suspect we will have a double top look on this before ripping up to new highs. I suspect this area will look similar to this area. Maybe not on a monthly perspective. It might not take this much time, right? Instead of on a monthly perspective, maybe it's on a weekly perspective, right? It'll be a quote-unquote fractal. I'm calling it now, man. Watch this video age like fine wine. People will be talking about this double top fractal at about 170 to 180K, comparing it to last cycles, telling you certainly we're dead, we're done. That's the end of it. And then we will rip. And then glory and riches at the end of 2025. I don't know, man. That's my theory. So again, if I'm wrong, 180K, this next move, this is it. February, March. That's it, you guys. That's it. Bull cycle's over after that. If I'm right, and I think I'm right, we're going to see 462K. And again, going back to what I started this last part of the video with, we haven't even interacted with the same area that we've interacted with every single time for every single bull market. And each one of these times, we've had 2 peaks. So even if we go up and interact with this line this month, which I think we will, that doesn't, or maybe not this month, maybe not January, but maybe February, March, if not April, May. That first peak here was right there. The next peak was 4 months later. So it took 4 months before you topped off after your first peak. This peak here took 7 months. And in fact, it alternates. It goes 4, 7, 4, and then here's one peak. It's all standing alone, but the other peak's there. It's just way down here, and it's 7, 4, 7, 4, 7. So if by the end of March, or by the end of February, beginning of March, we're at our first peak, and then it's 4 months later, likely we would top off in July, or 7 months later, that would point us into October. If we don't interact with this trend line until later than March, then we're only going to be later in the cycle. So just giving pause or a nod of acknowledgement to the idea that Bitcoin does not stop here. It would be unlike anything else we've seen in any other cycle. But we can see things like that. We can see things that are unlike any other cycle. You should be prepared for any outcome. But I don't think with Donald Trump being in office, with the most crypto-friendly administration in office, I don't think that's all we have. That's right. Donald Trump got into office and that's all we did before our bull market. And no, that doesn't make sense, man. We got more to go. Hit the like button, you guys. Subscribe if you want to see more content like this. I appreciate you all very, very much. Thank you for being here. I'll see you on the next one. Take care. Bye-bye.